Philosophy is the love of wisdom, for where does our wisdom come from? It does not come from the knowledge of external things. Our wisdom comes from the understanding of the Tao. Therefore, when we ask ourselves whether we have wisdom, we are inquiring if we have an understanding of the Tao. This is the question to ask. Thus, entering philosophy means engaging in the study of discussing the Tao, since it is through this study that we might grow in wisdom, understanding the relationship between the Tao and Qi. Please take note that the word Qi here has the same pronunciation as Qi in Chinese medicine, but it is a different word. The source of Chinese thought is the I Ching. Confucianism and Taoism both emerged from it. Confucianism has the 6 classics, right? Poetry, documents, rites, change, music, spring and autumn annals, among which change refers to the I Ching. On the other hand, Taoism has its own classics, the 3 classics. First, the I Ching, second is Laozi's Tao Te Ching, and third is Zhuangzi. Together, they are called the San Shuang, where the character for Shuang in Chinese metaphysics is Shuang. Taoism has 3 classics, Confucianism has 6 classics. Which classic is common to both? The I Ching. Therefore, it is the source, the overall source of both Confucian and Taoist thought. Let's use a phrase from the I Ching: the metaphysical is called the Tao, and the tangible is called the Qi. One is Tao, the other is Qi. Let's discuss what is meant by metaphysical and tangible. The so-called tangible refers to things that can be directly perceived or directly experienced, which Chinese philosophy calls Qi. For example, as I drink coffee, the cup is a material Qi. When I light a cigarette, the lighter is also a Qi, directly perceivable, usable, and experiential. Qi also includes another category. What we just discussed are material Qi, and there are also spiritual Qi, which refers to the various institutions of a nation's social life, political systems, economic systems, legal systems, educational systems, medical systems, and so on, also called Qi. So, the concept of Qi is divided into 2 categories, right? Material Qi and spiritual Qi, political systems, economic systems, legal systems, as well as educational systems, medical systems, etc., all of which can be experienced and are constantly being utilized, are all called Qi, the tangible. What is the relationship between Tao and Qi? We can understand this by an example. There is no doubt that the human mind has an understanding of time. Isn't time intangible? Who has ever perceived or touched time? No one, because time is an understanding that the human mind conceptualizes. Time is one aspect of the Tao. It is intangible, beyond sensation, beyond experience, but the human mind has an understanding of it. With this understanding, humans want to do something. What is it? They want to transform this intangible time into something that can be captured, even calculated, so humans invented timekeeping devices. There were hourglasses in ancient times, and there are clocks and watches today, all of which are Qi, called timekeepers. The timekeeper came from the human mind's understanding of the Tao, of time. All cultural creations are Qi, whether they are material or spiritual, they are all cultural creations, collectively referred to as Qi. All cultural creations come from the human mind's understanding of the Tao, right? So, what is the relationship between Tao and Qi? Humans create various Qi to practice the Tao, tools for the practice of the Tao, which are Qi. The various Qi we use or the systems we follow are tools for practicing the Tao. For example, how a nation understands the Tao of education will shape its educational system, how a nation understands the Tao of medicine will form its medical system, how a nation understands the Tao of politics will develop its political system. All Qi are tools for the practice of the Tao. Once Qi is formed, it undergoes evolution. What does it evolve into? Qi itself becomes the object of pursuit, a means for seeking profit. Once Qi reaches this stage, it is no longer a tool for following the Tao, it becomes the target of our pursuit, the goal itself. This situation can be described by 5 words: seeing Qi, losing the Tao. Originally, it was a tool for following the Tao, but it has now become the purpose itself, the objective itself. This is what is meant by seeing Qi, losing the Tao. Let's take a look at the current social conditions in China and see if we have lost sight of the way. Without discussing other systems, let's just take the education system as an example. What is the state of education in China today? From basic education to higher education, where are we within the educational system? Today, China's basic education has pushed our next generation into a dead end, and this is something that young parents today deeply feel. Our education has turned into something that trains our students to be what? Test-taking machines. There's an unspoken rule in school education that test scores are the ultimate truth, right? That's the belief of principals and teachers alike. So, what about the students? They are trained to be test-taking machines, striving for what? To enter key high schools, and then to compete to enter prestigious universities. Their entire educational path is like this. It's not that education should abandon exams. Exams are just a means, but now they have become the end, with test scores being treated as the ultimate truth. Why has this system led to such a situation? What is the most fundamental error of educational reform? The industrialization of education. What does the industrialization of education inevitably lead to? Severe imbalance in educational resources, forcing parents to choose schools for their children, and then compete. Compete using their family background, and then push their children into the fray. This happens all over the country. How can education be industrialized? How can it be subject to the dynamics of capital? The way of Chinese education has long been articulated, initially expressed in the I Ching, with a hexagram called Meng. The meaning of Meng, if you read it, is Meng fosters righteousness, a very concise statement. What does fostering righteousness mean? It means raising our children to be virtuous. The most fundamental, the primary task of education, is to nurture students as human beings. The secondary task is to enable them to become certain kinds of people, such as engineers, doctors, lawyers, and journalists. Creating professionals or specialists is the secondary task. Now the secondary task has become the only task. What kind of profession you will aim for depends on the market value of different professions. We start studying from a young age, from elementary school, working hard to then enter middle school, high school, and finally to gain admission to prestigious universities. Education itself is not the goal, but a means. It's not about cultivating virtue and aspiring to contribute to humanity. No. For many years at Fudan University, the highest college entrance examination scores among all the majors are always for finance, and the lowest are always for philosophy. This is very clear. It used to be said that going to school led to a career in government. That was the tradition. Now, of course, being a government official does not necessarily lead to wealth. But the belief of going to school for wealth, this is very clear. Hence the demands of parents, the requirements of society, and the severe hierarchical differences in professions. Your child didn't even get into college, right? Then that's a failed life. If we judge by this standard, then how many people's lives should be deemed failures? They are delivering packages, waiting tables in restaurants, and laboring on construction sites. Should their lives be deemed failures? Therefore, this is not something that can be resolved at this level anymore. We should rediscuss the way of education. Education is so important to the Chinese people. we are a nation that cares most about the next generation. For a child to become a true person, to grow up, they should receive an education. No matter how poor Chinese people are, the saying still goes, we can suffer, but our children should not suffer. We can be poor, but not in education. Even if I have to sell the cooking pot, would ensure my child gets an education. There is much written about the Chinese way of education. One of the most familiar works is Han Yu's, our 8th century scholar, on teachers, which discusses the way of education. And regarding medical care? The failure of medical reform has already been publicly acknowledged by officials. What is the root cause of this failure? 4 words: medicine-sustained medical practice. Doctors have finally become salespeople for medications. How do doctors and patients interact today? The doctor sits in front of the patient, and the patient sits in front of the doctor. What are they each thinking? The patient sits in front of the doctor. What is the patient thinking? The person sitting in front of me at this moment, what is he? He is someone thinking about the money in my pocket. The doctor also sits in front of the patient. What is the doctor thinking? The person sitting in front of me at this moment, what is he? He is someone who could sue me at any time. This is how they would see each other. In such doctor-patient relationships, the value of healthcare as a fundamental humanitarian endeavor has disappeared. Healthcare is indeed a valuable endeavor. In Buddhism, it is called giving strength and comfort, an act of giving between individuals. This is how humans are, always in need of mutual assistance and redemption among fellow beings. That is what giving strength means. When a person falls ill, they become fearful. The doctor's treatment helps them overcome that fear. That is giving strength. Therefore, when discussing the way, we should not focus on the Qi but rather on the way. This is what I want to talk about today, the relationship between the way and the Qi. What does this relationship illustrate? When a civilization faces fundamental problems, these problems invariably stem from what? 4 words: losing sight of the way. How should we discuss philosophy? The internet is a platform for philosophical discussion, where everyone is thinking. When we look at the internet in China today, we see that the general public is engaging in debates about issues that concern everyone. There are different positions, and people argue fervently with sharply opposing views. I believe this is a good thing. It's a spontaneous intellectual movement among the people. Of course, the debates can be intense, which is why I dare not join WeChat groups. If I were to join, I wouldn't be able to resist sharing my opinions and positions, which would then be fiercely criticized by others. Who are these others? They are old friends of many years, and the hurt caused is significant. Eventually, one gets blocked or leaves the group, and the friendship that lasted so many years can no longer continue. The damage is too great, so I choose not to participate. However, I think that this phenomenon is a good thing because it represents a spontaneous intellectual movement concerning both domestic and international issues that are of common concern. Discussing philosophy is a collective affair for everyone, and that is the first point I want to make today. The second point is about the concept of Tao, the way in Chinese thought and philosophy. Both Confucianism and Taoism discuss the way. In Confucianism, in addition to the 6 classics, there are also the 4 books, right? The Great Learning, the Doctrine of the Mean, the Analects, and Mencius. The Doctrine of the Mean begins thus, in 3 phrases: nature gives rise to Tian Dao or Tao, humans following Tao develop human nature, and cultivating human nature is called education. What does this mean? The nature of all things is determined by the Tian Dao. Humans have human nature, which is also decreed by the Tian Dao. And how should we live our lives as humans? We should fully realize our human nature. To follow our nature and live according to it means that our lives are naturally in accordance with the way. But humans are strange creatures, they change. Originally, the first two phrases would have been sufficient, right? The Tian Tao is called nature, following nature is called the way, wouldn't that be enough? But humans tend to change. Other creatures do not. For example, cats have their cat nature, dogs their dog nature, and fish their fish nature, and there's no problem. A cat fully realizes its cat nature throughout its life, and a dog fully realizes its dog nature. They won't halfway through their lives decide that it would be better to be something else. Cats won't think they should have been dogs, and dogs won't think they should have been cats. But humans are different. They may realize that their current state is not right and believe they should be a different kind of person, and thus they may want to change. Once they do, problems may arise, and they may stray from the way. What to do if one strays from the way? The third phrase comes into play. Cultivating human nature is called education. Do cats and dogs need to be taught? If we had a cat or dog at home, would we sit them down and give them a lesson in ideology and politics, telling them how to be a good cat or dog? But humans need to be taught. Humans are strange creatures, I've always been puzzled. Among all the things nature has created, it has also brought forth humans. Do you know what kind of creatures humans are? They are the most lovable and also the most detestable. Humans can ascend to the divine, becoming saints and sages, but they can also descend into depravity, becoming worse than beasts. I, Wang Defeng, am unfortunately also one of these members. Every person is the same, each one has two potentialities, to ascend or to descend. This is true for everyone. Hence, the third sentence of The Doctrine of the Mean comes into play. Cultivating human nature is called teaching.